Hello and welcome to this Cisco Secure Connect introductory course. Throughout this course, you will learn more about Cisco's relatively new solution, Cisco Secure Connect, and you will also have the opportunity to see the solution in action through a series of video demonstrations that focus on particular business flows or use cases. This Cisco Secure Connect course is an introductory course, and so the main aim of each lesson is to provide you with just enough information so that you can begin to have conversations about Cisco Secure Connect and also identify potential opportunities where the solution may be a good fit. Now, there is also a lot of Cisco documentation around this solution already. So again, with this introductory course, I am not trying to reinvent the wheel and reproduce content that's already out there. So what I do advise is that if you do require more information or more in-depth information, then please do check out related Cisco documentation and other content on Cisco Secure Connect. As I said, this particular introductory course will focus more on the use cases or business flows by showing you how to configure those in a lab environment. With that said, I hope that you find this introductory course useful and happy studying. Alright, so just to provide a brief overview on the Cisco Secure Connect solution, the way organizations work and now architect their networks is changing, or has been changing for the last few years. This change, partly accelerated by COVID-19, has meant that organizations are now shifting towards hybrid and remote working models and utilizing more cloud-based applications than ever before. It is with this shift that technology companies like Cisco have had to come up with new solutions capable of meeting the new demands of the working world. With that said, Cisco has developed a new solution called Cisco Secure Connect. The Cisco Secure Connect solution is a unified secure access service edge or SASE solution that caters to hybrid working strategies, combining both networking and security that make up the SaaS solution. Cisco is now capable or able to provide secure access to resources hosted anywhere. And just to labor on that point, the Cisco Secure Connect solution can provide secure access to resources in public and private clouds and to traffic destined for the internet. So in short, Cisco achieves this by connecting existing brands' SD-WAN devices and user endpoints to a cloud-based fabric comprising of multiple solutions, all managed through a unified cloud dashboard. As a result, the Cisco Secure Connect solution helps organizations on a transitional hybrid journey reduce the complexities often associated with architectural changes, thus delivering a greater return on investment by being able to deploy at speed, scale, and with better agility. And if that wasn't enough, Cisco's direct peering relationship with several SaaS providers helps deliver an improved user experience. And in fact, even with the additional security features in place, it was found that with Cisco Secure Connect, access to Salesforce, for example, was 21% faster than direct access from the internet. In upcoming lessons, you will learn more about the key use cases for the Cisco Secure Connect solution and how those use cases are configured and deployed, and you will also learn about the different license packages available today. So when we look at the packages available for Cisco Secure Connect, we can see a few notable differences between them, and that's why there's different versions. We have 4 different tiers or 4 different packages, if you like, and each one covers different features or includes different features that may be useful for a particular organization looking to make use of those features. But if we start with the first package, or the bottom package as I sometimes call it, we can see that this one's called Cisco Plus Secure Connect Foundation Essentials. And the description given for this particular package is secure internet access connectivity for branch and roaming users. So we focus really here with this particular package on features that are going to provide us with connectivity and security for those branch users, so those branch sites that have a local breakout to the internet, as well as those users that may be working in some sort of hybrid or roaming fashion, if you like. So we can see from a security perspective here, we have the Secure Web Gateway, or SWG, and that's going to include proxying, inspection, URL filtering, as well as secure malware analytics. And we're going to get a maximum of 500 malware samples or submissions to secure malware analytics per day. We then have the CASB, or the Cloud Access Security Broker, and that's going to be looking at cloud application discovery, risk scoring for those apps, as well as blocking, and cloud malware detection for up to 2 applications as well. We then have the Cloud Delivered Firewall. That's also included in this package, and it's going to be allowing us inspection, or the ability to look at layer 3 and layer 4. And then we have the DNS layer security. So for those that are sort of familiar with Cisco Umbrella and the SIG features, you probably notice that, you know, a lot of these features are in Umbrella or from Umbrella, and that's absolutely correct. You know, this is a sort of unified solution, as already mentioned, where we're bringing the best of the technologies that we have together in a SASE solution to be able to offer or create this Cisco Plus Secure Connect. So moving on to connectivity, you know, we're looking at sort of providing that access to that private access. We're looking at, you know, being able to have some sort of level of network access control. We're looking at direct SAS and IaaS peering, and then we're looking at Cisco Meraki SD-WAN integration as well. And this is going to allow us the interconnection of sites, users, and applications. Now, when it comes to management, we will see in the demos a little bit later on what that looks like, but we are essentially using the Cisco Meraki dashboard here for the management and unified visibility. With this particular package, support comes in a variety of 24/7 unified SaaS support, which is via email and phone, and then also access to self-help documentation as well. You also, with this package, get a free trial of 10 users with client-based access for remote access as well. So if you have or want to try out the client-based remote access, so that is using the secure client, formerly the Cisco AnyConnect client, then you can do that for up to 10 users. Moving on to the next package, we have the Cisco Plus Secure Connect Foundation Advantage. And this is going to include everything that we just saw in the last package, or the bottom tier package, if you like, in as well as the following. So we're going to get, in terms of security, we can now start to look at layer 7 on the firewall. So we can start to look at the applications themselves. And we also get IPS as well, so intrusion prevention system as well. Additionally, we also get inline data loss prevention. So that is a really good feature if your organization is looking for DLP in the cloud. And then we also have now cloud malware detection for all supported apps. So where we add a limited number of apps in the Foundation Essentials package, we now can essentially provide that for all supported applications. There's no sort of set number there. And the same with Secure Malware Analytics, where we add a set amount of submissions per day. With the Foundation Advantage package, we can have unlimited sample submissions per day as well. Moving on to the Cisco Plus Secure Connect Complete Essentials, I've highlighted the remote access / ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access here, and the reason I've done that is because this is essentially the additions you're going to get compared to the Connect Foundation Essentials. So you can see there with the white text, you're going to get all the features that you would get in the Connect Foundation Essentials, and then we're also going to be able to start looking at leveraging remote access and Zero Trust Network Access features as well. So this particular package is really useful for organizations that may be allowing access to applications, whether that be internally using a client such as Secure Client, or without a client, so clientless access to applications as well. And this is going to allow us to protect up to 10 applications, and we can provide that granular user and application-based access policy to control who's accessing which application and what controls are applied around that. And then we can support SAML 2.0 authentication, and we can also act as an identity provider or an IDP as well. On top of that, we can also posture and allow for contextual access control with reporting as well. In the last package, which is the Cisco Plus Secure Connect Complete Advantage, we have, again, everything in the Cisco Plus Secure Connect Essentials, plus the following. And you can see that the following here is, elaborating or is an addition to what we saw in the last package, the Complete Essentials. So we're now getting clientless browser-based access for up to 300 applications. We're also getting the Layer 7 cloud-delivered firewall and IPS, which we saw in the Foundation Advantage package. We're also getting the inline DLP, which again we saw in the Foundation Advantage package. And we're also getting the last two, which we also saw in there too, which is a cloud malware detection for all supported apps, as well as the secure malware analytics, which will support unlimited sample submissions as well. So I hope you found that brief breakdown useful, covering the packages of Cisco Plus Secure Connect. So now let's just spend some time briefly looking at some of the features that Cisco Plus Secure Connect offer. So although we've briefly touched on some of the features included with Cisco Plus Secure Connect, I wanted to spend some time elaborating on some of those features and benefits. So let's just take a look at what Cisco Plus Secure Connect has on offer. So with the cloud delivered firewall, or the CDFW, there is no need to deploy a physical firewall on premise, reducing your hardware footprint. Traffic is subject to inspection by the CDFW and can analyze packets all the way up to layer 7 depending on the package the organization chooses. With DNS security, the unmatched DNS layer protection that Cisco Plus Secure Connect offers provides protection right at the DNS layer, blocking any requests that are deemed malicious or requests to domains that the organization has otherwise decided to block. Furthermore, with the intrusion prevention system, or the IPS, organizations can prevent exploits directly from the cloud with the latest snort-free technology using signature-based detection. The Cisco Plus Secure Connect also incorporates the Secure Web Gateway, or the SWG. And with the SWG, organizations can leverage a full proxy that inspects and logs web traffic, providing threat protection and the ability to control access to applications. With the Cloud Access Security Broker, or the CASB, we have the ability to gain visibility of cloud-based applications and block risky cloud-based applications if they shouldn't be accessed. Now, if data loss is a concern within an organization, the Cisco Secure Connect can also leverage data loss prevention, or DLP, by analyzing sensitive data inline to prevent sensitive data from being leaked. With Cloud Malware Analytics, we can utilize this to submit and check files for malware in a sandbox environment. And then kind of complementing that is the Cloud Malware Detection, where we can detect and remove malware from cloud-based applications. The Cisco Secure Connect solution also brings with it the native Meraki SD-WAN integration, which can be leveraged to integrate those existing Meraki branch sites with built-in SD-WAN and auto VPN capabilities. And with the enhanced Meraki SD-WAN cloud traffic acquisition, we can actually get scale bandwidth for each connecting SD-WAN site of approximately, at the moment, 500 megabits per second, directional and unidirectional. With client-based secure remote access, using the Cisco Secure Client, organizations can provide client-based access to private applications from anywhere through the Cisco Secure Connect fabric. Now, if we have clients that are unmanaged, for example, we have the clientless ZTNA, or Zero Trust Network access. And this is really for users that need access to private applications but don't have a remote access client, such as a secure client. The clientless ZTNA feature provides organizations with the ability to provide least privilege access to those private applications without the need for an agent. And in addition, users can be granted access to only the applications they need access to, while administrators secure the access using posture capabilities. With user authentication, we can leverage our own SAML identity provider or use the cloud-based identity capabilities offered by the Cisco Secure Connect solution to enable end users authentication to services. And we can also optionally add multi-factor authentication to the authentication flow. With the Meraki policy import, for customers with existing Meraki policies, the Cisco Secure Connect remote access services will allow those policies to be imported to the cloud firewall in a guided fashion using a wizard. And we've already touched on the unified management, where we essentially leverage the Cisco Meraki dashboard, which is cloud-based. With the Network Interconnect provides routing between sources and destinations connected to the Cisco Secure Connect. So you can see there's quite a plethora of features and benefits of using the Cisco Secure Connect solution, especially for remote and hybrid work. So when we think about positioning the Cisco Secure Connect solution, we really need to think about the use cases or the business flows, which is what we're going to be referring to, in order to really see whether the solution is a good fit or not. Now, there is many Cisco documents out there, but one document that I particularly recommend where you should go if you are looking at deploying Cisco Secure Connect is the Cisco SaaS with Cisco Secure Connect design guide. And I will include that link in the video description, because what that contains is essentially what you're seeing on screen here, with a further breakdown of the capabilities and how you can map solutions to each of these business flows or use cases. But in essence, what you're seeing here on screen is the main business flows for Cisco Plus Secure Connect. So just briefly touching on these, and again, there is more detail on each one of these and how these are sort of broken down on the actual website. So do check that out. But let's just start off by looking at from top to bottom. So the first use case or the business flow is around remote employees with untrusted devices. So this is a remote employee that is likely not to have the Cisco Secure client for being able to access internal applications such as private applications using the client. So what we're going to look at here is remote employee with untrusted device, and this is going to focus all around that clientless ZTNA piece. So accessing those private applications while using an untrusted device. We then have the remote employee, but with a trusted device this time. So we're now looking at accessing those private applications again, but by using the Cisco Secure Client. So you can see the difference here with the untrusted device. We're focused on accessing those private applications using HTTP, HTTPS, whereas with the trusted device, we're focused on accessing those private applications using TCP or UDP protocols. We then have the remote employee with a trusted device, but now this time what they're doing is accessing public applications, so SASE-based applications. So that's another potential business flow. We then have the remote employee with a trusted device again, but this time they're accessing the internet or internet websites. So they're not accessing private applications on-prem, they're not accessing public applications such as SaaS-based applications. They're just accessing, the internet. Moving on, we've got then the on-premise side of things. So we've got the on-premise employee with a trusted device, and they're accessing private applications. So this employee is on-premise, they've got a trusted device, and they're accessing private applications. So how would that look? We then have the on-prem employee with a trusted device, and that on-prem employee is accessing private applications. We then have the on-prem employee with a trusted device as well, accessing the public applications, so the SaaS-based applications. And then lastly, we have the on-prem employee with a trusted device accessing the internet. So you can see there the differentiation between the two. We're looking at on-prem employees with trusted devices, and we're looking at remote employees potentially with untrusted devices or trusted devices. And again, these are further broken down, these business flows, on the link that I'm going to provide in the video description. So please do check that out if you want more detail around these business flows, which all map back to the SAFE or Cisco SAFE. So once you've sort of come up with an idea of the business flows or use cases that are suitable for your particular organization, we then need to look at capabilities for each of those flows. And again, if you're not familiar with Cisco Safe, I do urge you to go and check that out, because this is going to help you understand what you're looking at a little bit more. But essentially what we're doing is we're taking those business flows or those use cases, and then we're kind of putting in line with those use cases the sort of capabilities we would need. So we put the capabilities in place, and then we can then map those capabilities to potential solutions. So just quickly touching on these, we can see there with the remote employee and untrusted device at the very top, we're looking at identity authorization, device posturing assessment, multi-factor authentication, SAML single sign-on, application segmentation, and then you've got the web application firewall, DDoS protection, data center security on top, app workload security before you can get to that private application. Similarly with the remote employee, but then with the trusted device, we can see there that we add the firewall as a service capability, but we actually remove the application segmentation there. And then it goes further down where we're looking at the remote employee with the trusted device accessing SaaS-based applications. So for the most part, a lot of those are the same, but then we're adding DNS layer security on top of that because we're accessing SaaS-based applications. We want to make sure that those are safe from a DNS layer. You've also got the SWG, the firewall as a service, and CASB as well for accessing those cloud-based applications. And then for the internet part, so the remote employee with a trusted device accessing the internet, we've got the endpoint security, which comes into play from the second line anyway, from the second business flow. And then we also still maintain that DNS security, the SWG, the firewall as a service, and CASB as well. Then when we go to the on-premise side of things, we can see that we have slightly different capabilities for each one of these, depending on what you're trying to access. So for the private applications, we're not likely going to need DNS layer security because these are private trusted applications that we know about, but we might want to include firewall as a service to control the access to those private applications. We can see that we've got the SD-WAN piece in there, and that's coming from the Meraki side. And then we have, we can include that multi-factor authentication and SAML single sign-on if we choose to do so. With the on-prem trusted device accessing SaaS-based applications, we can see that we reintroduce that DNS layer security and the SWG, the firewall as a service, and the CASB. And we also add on that ability to incorporate that multi-factor authentication along with the SAML single sign-on. And then lastly, with the on-prem trusted device accessing the internet, you can see there that we're going to maintain that DNS layer security. We've got the SWG that we're going to keep in place, as well as the firewall as a service and CASB. We don't need the multi-factor authentication or SAML because we're just browsing technically the internet there. So you can see there that we have mapped now our use cases, our business flows, and put in place potential capabilities that we need. And then from that point on, we can start to look at where those solutions meet essentially. But in this case, we're focusing on Cisco Secure Connect, where we have already seen the features that are included, dependent on the licensing or the packaging that you're using. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to get into actually configuring or putting together some of these use cases in a lab and seeing how these come together from a configuration standpoint. Again, if you need more information around Cisco Safe or the actual design guide for Cisco Secure Connect, those links will be in the video description. So I do again urge you to go and check those out because they will go into a lot more detail, especially if you are looking at understanding how the actual business flows come together end to end. So even though you're going to see that sort of in the lab, it might be worth reading that documentation too. Just before we get into the labs, I wanted to share with you the Meraki documentation on Cisco Secure Connect. The documentation is really good and it gives you a sort of step-by-step overview of what Cisco Secure Connect is and how to configure it against the use cases that we have already discussed. So I will put this link in the video description as well, but if you are looking at sort of the traffic flows a little bit more for particular use cases or business flows, as we're calling them, then this could be a good website for you to take a look at. Because as you can see here, at least in the overview section of the solution, you can see the flows and what they look like for each particular use case. So in this first example here, we've got the managed endpoint, which is going through the cloud delivered firewall. And then you've got the different flows for either the internet, whether that's accessing the internet or SaaS-based applications, and then you have the flows for the private applications. So this is the managed endpoint. You also have the managed endpoint as well to access the same again, or at least accessing additionally the other branches that may exist within the Cisco Plus Secure Connect solution. And then we've got other capabilities that we could include here. So this is really looking at managed endpoints when they're not on the branch, if you like. So you can see there that we still have traffic being redirected to the secure web gateway, CASB DLP, and then it breaks out, and then we either get access to internet or SaaS-based applications. Then we move on to clientless again. So this is where we're looking at the browser access. You can see the flow is different this time. We're actually utilizing that ZTNA proxy before we get to the interconnect, and we either then access those public or private cloud applications, or we can then be pushed on to different locations. Whether that's a branch or DC, whatever that may be. So again, do check out these documents, because they are very useful, and it will give you a little bit more detail in terms of use cases and what the flows look like for those use cases. And if you actually just go back here, you can also see that there is more information on how to set up your Cisco Plus Secure Connect account, especially if you're just getting started. There's a few things to consider, as you can see here. You know, if you already have an umbrella tenant, then the instructions might differ, same as if you already have a new Meraki or existing Meraki tenant, then the instructions might differ as well. So again, do check that out, because that will be very useful. And then you've got all the additional links here that will be useful as well to get set up. So the first lab we're going to look at, or use case that we're going to look at in our lab, is the business flow for the clientless or the untrusted device. So the remote employee with an untrusted device. So this is going to be the Cisco Plus Secure Connect ZTNA to a private application in my lab. So we'll focus on this use case in particular first. Again, please do check out the Cisco SASE with Cisco Plus Secure Connect design guide, where this will be broken down a lot more in terms of written detail. However, we will see how components of this particular business flow come together in this lab. All right, so once you get set up with Cisco Plus Secure Connect, and we access it via the Meraki dashboard, as already pointed out, you're going to see a new section here called Secure Connect. And this is where all the configuration elements and components are going to be. And this is where we will configure everything we need for Cisco Plus Secure Connect. So you can see that we've got some quite a few different parts that we can browse, explore, or you see these little boxes with the arrow. This is essentially going to take us to things such as umbrella to configure DNS policies, web policies, firewall policies, etc. as well. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later on, but this is going to be the overview page, and as you can see, nothing is configured here yet. The only thing that is configured, if you like, is the Meraki to umbrella integration. So we've got that, we've actually pulled through those existing policies from our umbrella tenant, and we can see those here displayed. But aside from that, we don't have any sites configured, no network tunnels, nothing for remote access or any private applications or public applications. So we will get started, and we will go through these business flows, and we will get the necessary configuration in place so that you can see how Cisco Plus Secure Connect works. So one of the first things I am going to do is I'm going to connect my existing Meraki site. So this is going to be, as you can see here down on the right hand side of this image, this is going to be our branch site, and we're going to connect this to our Cisco Plus Secure Connect fabric, if you like. So that's the first step. So if we head over to our Meraki dashboard, and you can see sites here, and we currently have no sites configured. Now if we go to connect sites, and then what we can do now is basically just follow the instructions. So we want to add an existing Meraki network through the Meraki Secure SD-WAN connector to Umbrella. So we'll do that now. We've already got our branch site, our Meraki appliance, MX appliance up and running. So all we need to do is connect Meraki networks. And then you can see here now that we have our network that we can connect, and we can also see the model of the appliance as well. So once we have selected our appliance, we can then assign a region. So depending on where this appliance actually sits, let's assign it to a particular region. So in my case, I'm going to assign it to Europe 1. And then once we're done there, you can see now that region is Europe 1. If you click on assign, so it moves from unassigned to assigned. We now can click next. So let's click next. And then once we're done, we just review the configuration, and then we can finish and save. Now what you can see in terms of the alert section is one site is being provisioned and will be available after it is online. So the system is configuring routing at the moment. You can see that once that's done, we'll be able to see our sites below here. So we'll just give that a few minutes to complete so that we can actually see those changes. Okay, so that takes about a minute or so to do, and now you can see that our site has been successfully configured. We can see now that it exists under the site section, and we can see that at the moment, while things are sort of spinning back up, we can see that the site is degraded. That's fine. That is expected to change back to a normal state shortly. So if you do have more than one site, more than one branch, then follow the same process to configure more than one site. If you are just looking at testing with a particular site or branch to begin with, then you should be fine with a couple of sites being selected and configured just to start with. So if we just go back to our overview here, we can see now that we have our site. So we've got one site here. At the moment, it's saying that the site's not healthy, but that's fine. Again, it should change shortly. We can also manage those sites if we choose to do so. We can see now that we have two private access tunnels. So if we have a look at these, what it's going to do there is going to now launch Cisco Umbrella so that we can take a look at those network tunnels. So as you can see here, we have two inactive tunnels at the moment, and we can see that those were updated just a moment ago when we configured our site. So we've got a Secure Connect tunnel in London, and then we've got a Secure Connect tunnel in Frankfurt in Germany now. And that's based on the region that we have selected. So although that says inactive at the moment, those should change shortly. So if I just refresh this now, And now you can see that the site itself, now that it's up and running, you can see that the site itself is now healthy. Our next step now, before we can actually get into the use cases and start configuring, we need to configure our identity provider for the end user authentication. And this is really required for that clientless remote access, as well as client-based remote access if you choose to use that as well. So let's go and configure that. So as mentioned earlier, we can configure our own SAML identity provider. So whether you have something such as Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, or Entra ID now, as it's called. If you don't have an IDP, you can actually make use of the IDP on offer through Meraki as well. And this is a no-cost IDP service, particularly for Meraki customers. What we're going to do is we already have our IDP in place, so we can actually, in our example, we'll actually stick with Cisco Duo, and that's going to allow us to make use of single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication capabilities as well. So we're actually going to make use of that for our identity provider. Okay, so now we want to, as I say, configure our IDP. So within Cisco Plus Secure Connect, let's now click on configure remote access. So when we do that, we can see now that we've not configured our remote access service yet, because we're going to now configure our users or our identity source. However, what we did just do is we enabled that application connectivity. So we added our existing Meraki sites. So our next step now is to configure and provision users. So if we click on that, as I said previously, you have a few options. So we can actually make use of the Meraki cloud authentication if we don't already have an identity provider. We can link an existing Meraki cloud authentication if we already have existing users with an existing Meraki cloud auth, or we can actually bring our own IDP. And this is the option that we're going to use in this particular demonstration, because we already have, as I said, Duo single sign-on, which is being integrated with our Active Directory. So we can make use of that. So if I now click connect on this, we can see now that we've got a few options. So the first one is to configure SAML, and this is going to allow us to authenticate any Connect users with our IDP. And then we've got the next step, which is to provision users and groups. So these are going to be the users that we are going to pull from, and the groups that we're going to pull from Active Directory. And then we can assign those users and groups for our remote access service, or allow those users and groups to access those services. So you can see the little box with the arrow again. So this is going to open up Umbrella. Now, before getting started with this integration, we need to make sure that Duo single sign-on has been configured with our existing identity provider. So that can be an IDP such as Active Directory, or it can be a cloud-based IDP, for example. That has already been done and will not be shown in this demonstration. However, if you are interested in taking a look at how that is configured and how that works, please do take a look at my previous Duo videos on my YouTube channel. So the first thing we're going to do once we have access to our Duo dashboard is we're going to go across to Applications, and then we're going to click Protect an Application. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to search for Umbrella, and we have two options. So the first option is for actual authentication into Umbrella, and the second one is for authentication against users using or being specified in policies, etc. for Umbrella. So we're going to click the second one, end users, and we're going to click protect. And then our XML file, we're going to download that later. We're not going to download that yet. But for our service provider, we're going to need our organization ID. So you can get your organization ID from your Umbrella tenant. Once you have that, you can paste it into this field here. With custom attributes, if you are using custom attributes, then check this box. We're going to leave that as normal for now. We're not going to check that box, so we'll just leave it as unchecked. Universal prompt is going to be active, and then we can also specify any relevant policies that we want to apply here. I'm just going to apply a default application policy here. And then if we scroll further down, you can actually give the application a name, a more meaningful name if you choose to do so. So I'm just going to leave this as it is for now. We can also let users remove devices or add new devices and reactivate Duo Mobile. Again, for the purpose of this demo, I will just leave that as is for now. And there's a few other settings here that we can modify if we choose to do so. I'm just going to go ahead now and press save. Once that application has been saved, we can now download the XML file, which we will need for Cisco Umbrella. So we'll just download that now. And then we will head over to Cisco Umbrella. So when on our Cisco Umbrella tenant, we want to navigate to deployments, configuration, and then SAML configuration. And we don't have any SAML configuration yet, so we want to click on the top right hand side and click add, and then we will select our identity provider here. So we'll select Duo Security there, and if you're using a organization specific entity ID, so this is basically if you need to configure SAML for multiple Umbrella tenants, using the single identity provider, then you need to turn this on. We'll leave this as disabled for now and click next. And this is where we're going to need that XML file. So we'll now upload that XML file. We want to make sure that XML file upload is selected, and then we'll just click next there. Now we can upload that Duo Security metadata XML file. So we'll just upload that now. And there you can see that that file there has been uploaded, and that's the XML file from Duo that we downloaded. So once we've done that, we can then click next. And then we have the option here to select when to re-authenticate users. So we've got never, daily, weekly, or monthly. We can see that the default is set to daily. We'll leave that as daily and we'll say save. And once that's done, we can now test the configuration. So we'll click test configuration. And you can see now that I'm brought to my Duo single sign-on page where I can actually sign in. I'm just going to enter a username that I know is enrolled. And then I'll enter the password once I get it right. And you can see there that I can now get set up for Duo Security. So I just go through the prompt, set up Duo Mobile as I normally would. and then once enrolled I can get access. So I'm not going to complete that because I need to enter some personal details to do that. So I will enroll this user manually, and then we can continue with the testing. So now that that's done, you can see when logging in, I have the option, a dual push has been sent. So I'm going to approve that on my device. Click OK. And there you can see that the SAML configuration test has successfully been completed. And that's all there is to it. So once that's configured and completed, you should be now set up with your duo single sign-on configuration. So once you've configured SAML, you can return back to the Meraki dashboard, and once refreshed, you can see now that SAML is showing as configured. So this is going to allow us to authenticate, as it says, any Connect users or Cisco Secure Client users with the identity provider that we just configured. All right, so now that we have configured SAML and we have tested that with Duo, the next thing that we need to do is we need to add our users and groups, and we're going to be using Active Directory for that. We have Duo already configured and integrated with our Active Directory that we're going to be using for this demonstration. So what we need to do now is we need to add our users and groups. So if we go on Umbrella, if we go to our sites and Active Directory, we can see for starters that we don't have any Active Directory information yet because nothing is configured. If we click on users and groups, we can see, ignoring the Azure Active Directory, we can see there that we have no users and groups for Active Directory. The only one that we have is Azure Active Directory, and that was done just for some testing, and we might take a look at that in this particular training a little bit later on. We'll see. But our main focus now is for getting Active Directory configured as well. So you can see their status is disabled, and now we need to provision our users and groups, and to do that we need to download and deploy the Active Directory or AD connector from the sites and Active Directory page that we were just on. So if we go back to that sites and Active Directory, we can see there that we have a download button on the top there. We just click that, you can see there that we have a couple of options, and the options that we're focusing on is the Active Directory connector here, so the AD connector. So if we just want to first start off with this, and what we'll do is we'll download that Active Directory connector, and then once that's downloaded, that needs to be installed onto our Active Directory machine. So once that's downloaded, what we need to do is we'll head over to our Active Directory domain controller, and once on here you can see there that we have our zip file that we've just downloaded. So I'm just going to extract this on our test domain controller, and then once that's done we can open that, and we can then click this setup, and then we can go through the setup with a wizard. So we'll just click through this, and if it's the first time that you're doing this, it is recommended that you just read as you go through the setup, just to make sure that you are happy with all the items that will be configured. And what we need to do here, we need a service account, if you like, and this is going to be used for, as it says here, access Active Directory for monitoring. So by default it's recommended that you set up a service account for this particular username, OpenDNS connector. I believe I already have that done, so I will just enter the password for that. And once I've entered my password, I can then click next, and you can see there now that the OpenDNS connector credentials were validated successfully. And now if you have a proxy for outbound communication, then you need to now put in those details. If not, then you can simply just continue on to next. So we'll just say next, and then we'll begin that installation. And there we go, that AD connector is now configured. That setup wizard is now complete. So we'll just click finish there. And what we'll do is we'll turn back now to Cisco Umbrella, and we'll take a look and see if we can see any differences there. So if we just click off of this, and if we just simply refresh this now, we can now see that we have our AD connector now showing up. So it's giving us our host name for that machine. It's giving us the internal IP address. We can specify the site if we choose to do so. We've just got the default as it is, as it stands, and that's fine. We can see there that it's the AD connector, and we can see there the status is showing as installed a few seconds ago, and then we have a version tied to that AD connector. So what will happen in a couple of minutes is that status will change, and then we should be able to see a difference in that status there. So we'll try refresh it again. It may take a little bit longer, but if it does, we'll come back to that and we'll see that the status has changed from installed and the question mark, which shows that it's pending some checks. So now if we go to our deployment and we go to users and groups, and then we go to Active Directory here, and you can see there that we still have no users and groups there. So we've already configured the Active Directory connector here. And if we just go into view users and groups on the top right, you can see that we can only still see our two users from Azure and our test group from Azure. Again, that's not part of what we're looking at, so we can come off this for the time being and leave that as it is. So let's just go back to sites and Active Directory again. We can see there that the status hasn't changed, so we'll give it a minute for the status to change and we will continue with our configuration of the users and groups. One other thing I should have mentioned and will need to do actually, because on my domain controller I have not done it on this test machine, is we need to prepare the domain controller so that it can communicate with the Umbrella instance. So what we need to do is we need to also download this script for the domain controller. So what we'll do is we'll download that now. And if you are unsure about a few of these things, what you can actually do is navigate to Cisco Umbrella Docs, where there is a full breakdown of the configuration requirements and what the connector and the script, etc., is going to do. We're not going to cover that in this lab, but what we'll do is we'll install both of them. So we've installed the connector, now we'll just get that script, install that script or run that script, and we should be good to proceed. So we'll do that now. So now we have our configuration script here. We can just simply run this. So if we run with, you need to run it with admin privileges, that is. So what we need to do is we can run this with admin privileges. And if you try to run it without that, it won't work. And then what will happen is it will open up the script. And what we'll do here is answer these questions. So it says your platform is supported for auto configuration. Do you want to auto configure that domain controller? So we're just going to say Y for yes. And it's going to run through a few things in the background and make sure that the domain controller is configured correctly, and then what we will be asked then is whether we want to register this domain controller with our umbrella instance. So we're just going to say yes for this, and there you go. You can see that that is all that is required now with our configuration to be able to get those users. Again, I thought I'd already run that script, but looks like I hadn't before on this test machine. So nevertheless, that is install those two components now. So we have the, just go back now to umbrella, we have the script that we've just run, and we also have the connector installed on our domain controller as well. So let's just cancel off of this now. Let's just give this a quick refresh. We can see there that we have the addition of the domain controller now, which is where the connector is installed as well for this particular instance. So he's showing basically both machines for the controller and where the connector is installed as the one machine, but it'll bring it up as two separate entries. And that's based off the script that we've just run and also the connector as well. So now that those two are configured, let's head back over now to our users and groups and see if we see a difference here. So now you can see under Active Directory, we have 18 users and 19 groups. We have a warning for the AD connector because it's saying it's in a warning state. That might just be because we've just configured it. We can also, if that's remains, we can take a look at why a little bit later on, but let's just assume that it's because we've just configured that at the moment. Now if we click on view users and groups in the top right hand side, we can see now that we have a lot more users to work with. We've got the, as you can see now, ignoring the Azure users, the test users, we can see there that we have our Active Directory users all pulled through here, which is great. So that's good now. So now we can actually start to, if we want to build policies around, you can access our configured private application and only allow those particular users or groups to access that application. So if we go back to Meraki now, let's just refresh this dashboard. So we have our one private application configured, and we'll take a look at how to sort of configure that a little bit later on. But the main focus right now is to take a look at our users. So if we go across to users now and Secure Connect, we can see now that the users have been synchronized across, again, ignoring those Azure users. For example, we can see that none of the users are connected currently because there's no active sessions. We can see that there's no security events associated with these. And if we click on user groups, what it's going to do is it'll take us back through to umbrella for that. I'll just press back because we don't want to do that. We've seen the groups, and we can create groups if we wanted to specify specific groups. So that's basically how we can configure the Active Directory integration, and that will sync up with our Duo single sign-on, where Duo's acting as our identity provider, and it'll allow us then to connect into our configured private applications. There is obviously other identity providers we can use, such as Azure, for example. We may take a look at that a little bit later on, but we'll just stick with Active Directory and our single sign-on with Duo for now. So let's move on to now the application, and I'll show you how the application itself is configured. So if we now go to the documentation that I spoke about a little bit earlier, which is the design guide for the Cisco Secure Connect business flows. or use cases. We'll first focus on this private application clientless CTNA part. And this is really looking at, and if you've not seen this document, I do urge you again to please check this out in more detail. But what this is essentially doing is allowing us to provide a route to internal applications for remote clientless, so those users or those remote employees that don't have Cisco Secure Client, for example, still a way for them to access applications within the organization. But before they do that, they need to authenticate, and then they will pass through the Cisco plus Secure Connect stack in a secure manner before getting access ultimately to, as you can see here, that private application there. So this is what we're going to configure now. We're going to configure this process. So we've already configured our Meraki branch, if you like. We've configured our single sign-on or our authentication piece for that user to carry out the authentication, as well as the multi-factor authentication. And then we also have already a application in the background that is running that can be used for this particular use case. So we'll configure this private application access on Cisco plus Secure Connect, and we'll take a look at really what that entails and what that looks like. Okay, so with access to our Meraki dashboard, again, we can see we've got a little section down here called private applications, and we've got none configured at the moment. So what we want to do is we want to configure that private application that we're going to use for that clientless CTNA access. So let's go to manage private apps, and then we can add an application. So we've got private apps, public apps, app groups, and categories, which you can further categorize these apps in, but we'll just add an application for now. We can give this application a name. So my application, for example, will be called, let's call it Firewall Management Center. And we can define the app for either network-based access, so this is private apps on these IP addresses can be accessed through the VPN, or we can assign it for browser-based access. So we're focused on the browser-based access, so this is going to be accessed using the clientless ZTNA. So we'll specify browser-based access, and we can specify the network IP address, and you can see our protocol has to be TCP here, and we're assuming it's 443, but we can change that port if it's not, and then we specify that IP address as well. So in the network IP addresses, I'm going to put the IP address of this particular test system. And then we'll leave the port as 443. Under server name indication, we will put the internal DNS name. And then we won't validate the certificate of this server, because this is just a test in this example. You can see for external URL that this will be generated automatically when we save, as well as the certificate here, which will also be generated. And if you wanted to add this to a specific group, if you had created a group, then for the applications, then you could also do that, but we haven't and we won't for now. So we'll just click save on that. And now we can see that the application has been saved successfully. So if we click on that, you can see there we've got the information that we need, the external URL now, which is now populated, which we would use, or that client that remote client who is going to be accessing this would use this particular URL to access this service. All right, so now that we have the private application configured, our test private application, I just wanted to head back over to Umbrella just to show you that the status has changed and to show you what that looks like once it has changed and what to expect. So you can see here, because I'm using the AD connector on my domain controller and I run the script on my domain controller, you can see here that I've got two different entries as mentioned before. However, you can see there that we have green statuses, which is what we would like to see. And if you recall a little bit earlier on, and when we clicked on users and groups, we had a little explanation mark, which was amber on here. Now you can see there that that's actually gone away. So you may see that when it's first configured, as we saw in this particular demonstration. And if we just head back to sites on Active Directory here, you may see the status change from just installed when it's usually gray to maybe to red before it turns to green. So just give it half an hour or so, don't panic, and just keep monitoring that and make sure that the status is changed to green if you are configuring that. Okay, with that said, without further ado, let's get in now to actually configuring the private application so that we can access that private application with a specific user, and then we can actually finish off testing this particular business flow or particular use case. Now what we'll do is to configure access to our application, our browser-based application. We want to head to Secure Connect, and then we want to go to browser access under policies. Once we click on that, we can see there that we have a default rule, which is to deny access to all users and all applications. What we need to do is we need to add a new rule above this. So we'll just call this one Firewall Management Test. And we can specify individual users or groups. What we'll do is we'll just keep it simple for now and say all, and going to the Firewall Management Center. Now, obviously, if you are deploying this in production environments, then it does make sense to restrict the access absolutely to only those users or groups that are required access to the specific applications that you are configuring. We're not going to do anything with poster profiling yet, so we're just going to go ahead and press save there, and now you can see there that that rule has been saved and it is enabled. So if we go now back to our overview, and if you remember the application we configured, if I just click on private apps, and then if we just click on that there, we can see that we had that external URL. So if I just copy this link here, and then if we just try to open this in a private browser and access that now, let's see what result we end up with. So you can see there now that I've been redirected to my identity provider, which is Duo for single sign-on. So what I need to do now is I need to enter an email address that is associated with my identity provider. So mine was going to be administrator as an example, networkwizkid.co.uk. And if I now enter my password for this user, and I'll be redirected now to complete multi-factor authentication. So I'll just approve that on my device. And there you go. And then once that's approved, we can now see that the application itself is showing as unreachable. So that means that our application for some reason is not reachable, and we need to check the flow from the Meraki appliance to that specific application. So we'll do that now. Okay, so I've just had a quick look at the configuration, and for some reason there was a slight issue with my tunnels that I had configured, so I had to reconfigure those tunnels. Now that those tunnels are back, we should be good now to test. So you can see here on Umbrella that we have our active tunnels now. We've got our data center in London, and then we have our other data center in Frankfurt in Germany. So if I refresh that, for some reason it says inactive tunnels, but both tunnels are active now. Maybe it's just not updated yet to be reflected accurately, but both tunnels are back up with my Meraki MX, so we should be able to let's just head over to Meraki. We should be able to now test the access to our private application again. So if I just navigate to the application and let's just refresh this. Let's just enter it again. There you go. So now I can see that I can access my secure firewall management center, and then I should be able to log in there. So if I might have to go through the authentication process again, but let's hope not. But let's take a look now at our users. So it's not showing there as any connected, and for some reason I keep getting this error while loading. I may have to look into that, but we have connected now. So what I'll do actually is I'll go through the whole process again, just so that we can see the end-to-end flow now that it's configured. So what I'll do is I'll just copy that link. I'll open up a new private session actually. Paste that link again, and there you go. So I will sign in again as I did previously. Just go back and edit that. And now I will complete that multi-factor authentication again with Duo. And this time we should get that redirect successful this time as opposed to that error. So there you go. Now you can see that I have successfully redirected and have access to my private application, which is the Secure Firewall Management Center here. And that's using Cisco plus Secure Connect. So that's great. We know that that works now. That's that use case now configured correctly and up and running. So we should be able to now see with regards to sort of configuration, we should be able to see the users that are accessing the application. You know, we've got a change log here. This is for the configuration. We've got a policy overview, so we could actually configure additional policies if we choose to do so. And what we'll do as well is we'll take a look at Umbrella as well and see what we're seeing on the Umbrella side. So if we click on our activity search for core reports, we can see quite a few bits of information here. One important bit that we can see here is we can see there that we have let's just have a look at this view full details. So you can see that identity has been picked up, and we can see that we're accessing the firewall management center, which we've configured as a private application. We have the IP address, the public IP address of the of where it's being accessed from, location, browser, as well as operating system. Granted, actually, I am using Windows 11 as opposed to Windows 10. And then we've got the timestamp and whether that's being allowed or not as well. So we do get to see that information here and can confirm that we've managed to connect to our private application using Cisco plus Secure Connect. So if we just go back to our overview there and we head back over to our Meraki instance here. And let's just go to our application. So this is the application that we have configured and we now know is working, and we can access that as well, which is great. So now if we just consider the use cases that we've been talking about and discussing and wanting to cover, that pretty much in a nutshell will cover the configuration as to how you configure private applications or access to those private applications using Cisco plus Secure Connect. So what we'll do in the upcoming sessions is we will start to look at the other use cases and how we can leverage Cisco plus Secure Connect to address those use cases as well. So we've covered one private application using the basically ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access with the private application, and we'll leave it at that in terms of configuration, because the whole purpose of this training is to just give you a brief overview of how things are configured and how Cisco plus Secure Connect looks and how it can be used to address the specific use cases we spoke about at the start of the course. So as I said, we'll move on to the next use case now. If you do have any questions with regards to the first use case that we've just taken a look at, then please feel free to reach out to me directly, comment on the video wherever you're watching this, and I will do my best to get back to you and answer your questions. All right, so we have looked at now, if we just head back to this documentation, we've looked and configured the private application clientless ZTNA piece. So we have set that up and we've seen that working. The next use case or business flow we will take a look at is the private application with client-based remote access. So we're actually going to leverage the Cisco Secure client and the AnyConnect VPN module to access that application. Now, just to make it easier viewing for those that are going through this training and watching this video, what I will be doing is I will be splitting up the content just so that each use case is kind of separated from one another, so that if you want to refer to a specific use case after you've watched all the videos, then you can look and watch that video rather than having to search through a full training session. So please look out for the other Cisco plus Secure Connect videos that I am doing. If you are watching on my YouTube channel, then they should be part of a playlist, but just check on my channel for any Cisco plus Secure Connect videos, just to make sure that you don't miss any of the additional training or content that I release around Cisco plus Secure Connect.